pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have our consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they would like to have removed from the consent agenda that we will vote on later? Okay. Is there, at this time, we're moving to special activities, and we have a public hearing for the tax budget. I'd like to entertain a motion to recess the regular meeting, open the public hearing, please.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Beerspaw.
Yay.
Mr. Gabbard.
Yay.
Mr. Wade.
Yeah. Anything you'd like to discuss about that for us?
No, sir, it's exactly the same as what was presented to you in the email. Really, all this is a method for the county to find out what resources are going to be available for next year's budget. It's not really a true budget in the normal sense. We'll go through that exercise later this year.
Okay, anybody have any question about what Russ will present to the county? Is there a motion to approve, never mind, is there a motion to recess the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Gabbard.
Yay.
Mr. Meterspaw.
Yay.
Mr. Wade.
Yay. And then for the tax budget, is there a motion to authorize Russ to present that to the county?
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Meterspaw.
Yay.
Mr. Gabbard.
Yay.
Mr. Wade.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we also have a second public hearing scheduled. Is there a motion to recess the regular meeting and open the second public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Gabbard.
Yay.
Mr. Meterspaw.
Yay.
Mr. Wade.
Yeah. And this public hearing is to a text amendment to 2019-1 to the Clear Creek Township zoning code with refined standards in Chapter 3 for shipping and portable containers, storage containers.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hall.
You'll remember a couple months back, we initiated this text amendment. It went through to Warren County Regional Planning. They made a minor modification request. When the zoning commission heard this, they liked the idea. They actually, within your text, they added the no larger than 8 foot by 8 foot 6 inches by 16 to actually give it some dimension. So when we're talking about what a portable storage container would be, it puts that as its maximum size. So that someone can't say, well, no, this is a portable storage container. We actually have a dimension associated with it. The shipping container remained as was drafted. When we went through and had this, we then had our legal review, and legal actually requested we go to provision 5.22. As it currently states, it says portable storage containers are permitted for a maximum of 14 consecutive days per year per residential property. This request is that we strike consecutive days, so that we truly have it 14 per calendar year, so that someone would not establish it for 13 days, remove it, come back, grab it another time, and say, hey, I'm allowed to have this 14 days each time that I have it, type of thing. So that would be the only change from what the zoning commission has recommended for approval as you have drafted.
Okay.
Just for clarification, the ones that exist today, based upon the law director's discussion, are grandfathered in. So we can't do anything what is there. We will have a list of everything that we were able to identify as addresses that they did have them prior to this becoming an effective reg. After that point in time, they would be meeting the provision of being prohibited when they're under 5 acres and lots.
Being that we added gravel, concrete, and asphalt, does that affect any of the current containers?
The top 3 that I'm thinking of, I think all have that as underneath them. That's a good question.
Any other questions about resolution 5172? Okay, is there a motion? Anybody have any comments about 5172 before we close the public hearing? Okay, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Meterspaw.
Yay.
Mr. Gabbard.
Yay.
Mr. Wade.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve 5172 as presented by Mr. Palmer along with the change that you referenced.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yay. Okay, next item is fiscal business development.
Still working on the street lighting assessments, such an enjoyable task that Matt gave me.
He likes me less and less every day.
I didn't know that you got that one, huh?
Yeah,
He volunteered for it.
I volunteered.
Realized what was into it.
But, yeah, I'm getting an education in that one, so just wanted to pass that along, that I so truly appreciate that. And,
No
other
good
than
deed
that,
goes unpunished.
yeah, no deed goes unpunished.
Keep
That's
that,
it,
keep
sir.
that in mind.
That's it.
Anybody have any questions for us about any of the information we received? And what will the fine job he's doing on the streetlight systems? Okay, next item is public comment. We do have some guests here tonight. And if you would, come up to the podium and give us your name and address as we record this, and then
Yeah.
be officially in the minutes.
I'm Kelly Hackett. I'm at 1784 Grand Cypress Boulevard, Waynesville, 45668. So I hand these to you to get to them, or?
I think-
Okay. One for myself. There's a letter, a picture, and then like, I printed off the design thing, even though you guys know it. But.
I did. Oh, I think we handed down.
Yeah, we-
Oh, it's okay. Oh, you, I have one for each of you.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So you can see it. This is just an example amongst others that will help. So the reason I wanted to attend today was to address the current zoning code as it stands right now for pool covers. Currently it states in the zoning code that if you have a rectangular pool cover and it's of a certain height, you do not have to have a fence around the pool. So after a year of being next to a pool that does not have a fence, it's finally like starting to, I finally had the courage to come and speak in front of you guys today. So, and this is not just on my behalf, like being a mother of 5 children, but it's obviously, there's other homes in my neighborhood that have the same incident. So, we live in a cul-de-sac, and the pool cover is great if it's being utilized. But we have found on numerous counts, and I'm sure like other people can contest, you know, this is the start, that if the pool cover's not on, mom and dad leave it open, or the older siblings leave it open, go inside. I can have all safety measures in my house. I have a fence around my yard, we have a security system, but having 5 kids under the age of 9, one slips out the door, and we know how fast children are. So one gets away. So my hope is that coming here today, there's something that can be done before something deadly happens. There's a ton of kids in our cul-de-sac, so it's one child that wants to sneak into the yard or sneaks out of the house, it just takes one. And I hate for that, like, I don't want it to be my kid, and I feel like this is a very unsafe current zoning law that we have in place. Talking with Jeff today, it seems like they thought this would be, people would be responsible. Not everyone is responsible at all. So I feel like this strongly needs addressed. I'm kind of proposing that maybe if it's on larger acreage, 5 acres or more, they don't need a fence. But we're an acre and a half lot. These lots are small. So I don't know what I can do to help this escalate and get it changed.
We did go through this just a couple of years ago, it seems to me. I'm not sure how long ago it's been. And, of course, had a lot of, the majority, the real purpose of the push at that time was to not have the fence. So we did change the zoning code at that time to allow these pool covers that were safe enough if they were closed. So it looks to me like we're gonna have to take a look at that and talk to the owners to start with, and make them understand the reason that they are allowed to do that is because they have to keep it closed there. Now, how do we do that? That's a good question. We'll have to talk to our council about that.
Well, there's another, neighborhood pool the same way, access is in cul-de-sac, they have it open. I don't drive by there all the time, but,
they don't close it much either.
I mean, I've seen it open before, but they're not my neighbors, let's say. So I just feel like if
Well,
this is happening.
It's gonna be open if somebody's home and they're gonna go in and out to the pool, I mean, I get that, but if they're leaving it or leaving it.
I think that's the
with young
bigger
kids-
concern is like if they go in and they're having dinner as a family, or they're getting food prepared and their pool is open, well, there's no one
There's
out.
also some alarms that you put in that pool,
So,
that will go off if somebody gets into the pool. So maybe that's something to look into, but I think we need to look into it and.
I would hate for the county to get a bad name the second that something tragic happens, and that this is, like, when you look at the laws in New York
You know,
and other states, it's like, you have to have certain door locks and
Well,
have security alarms.
there's quite a few subdivisions, political subdivisions around here that have the same one that we have. I can't recall who we looked at the time, but I believe there was a jurisdiction in Beaver Creek, and maybe Centerville, Beaver Creek, Washington Township, they all have the same ruling that we have. So we're not the only ones that have done this, but nevertheless, I certainly appreciate what you're saying, and we need to take a look at, see if there's some way we can beef this up, or if need be, if it becomes need be to make the change. You guys have any thoughts on this?
At the time, we talked about the fact that the fence was only a certain prohibitive piece to it, and we would rather see them execute covers to ensure 100%. There were experts here from different pool companies, as I recall, discussing that argument as well. I certainly understand your concern, and it would be mine as well. We need to look into what we can.
And it's not just for me,
No,
I want this to be like a community
Understood.
thing where
Understood.
it's.
Yeah, it's a safety issue,
Exactly,
for
and
sure.
I mean,
So-
a cover and a fence, if I'm gonna do that, I'm not gonna put a bullet, but, I mean, that's what I would do.
Well, that was the debate, people that were here that owned the pools that said, if I use this type of cover that you can walk across, that's safer than a fence.
And that's where I feel like, these covers are great, but if they're not being.
Right, if they're not using them, then it defeats the purpose of the ruling.
Completely, yeah.
So, I mean, we've got to address that end of it as well.
What was the height, was it a 4-foot fence?
4, yeah.
There's 4 right here.
4 feet.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had a pool when my kids were little, and I moved. I had a 4-foot fence around it. They could get over that thing.
That's the challenge of it. I mean, and a lot of people don't want to put up a 6-foot fence around the pool because of the privacy factor versus being able to see anything. So we had to weigh everything when we did that.
Yeah, moving is, it's not an option, I mean, I'm in real estate, so with the market the way it is, we're not gonna get what we bought, so
Yeah.
it's just something, looking at other options, so.
That was my choice, that was just not an option for you, and I get that. Well, we'll give this some thought, and, Jeff, we probably ought to, maybe get our council to write these people a letter.
Yeah, we talked on the phone earlier, now that we're aware of this property, and we can do something about the provision states the cover must be locked when the pool is not actually used or when the pool is unattended. Not being on everyone's property all the time. It may be some hit or miss, but we do know that this is a property that we should look at.
Do I remain anonymous, these are neighbors that I have to?
You're not anymore.
You're on public record, but we won't.
Oh, well, I'm like, you're
Yeah.
not going to knock on their door.
Yeah. We can't hide this.
I know, no, I know.
But this will probably be very vague in its
Or just a
reference to,
general
it's been brought to our attention.
No, we're not gonna say Kelly came and told us.
Yeah.
And just, anticipation, because I did have a phone call this morning, this regulation went into place on March 8th of 2016. So through today, we've issued 112 pool permits. Of that, 39 were with an automatic pool cover.
So it's a third, roughly.
Okay. Well, we will take a look at this and let you know how our progress goes and what the steps are, Mr. Palmer, and see what we can do with this.
Okay, I really appreciate that.
Thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much.
Okay. See anything else from public comments? Anybody else out there? We have some other folks. Okay, moving on, we have new business. We have under new business administration resolution 5175, a resolution authorizing the township administrator to enter into facilities lighting agreements for all the township-owned buildings, Duke Energy and DPNL, dispensing with the second reading and declaring an emergency.
Calling this new business might be a little bit of a misnomer if you remember about a month ago.
Yep.
We brought forward the facilities lighting agreement and presented it to the board for consideration. And decided at that point in time to table it, for us to go back to the, energy aggregation successful bidder to ask them to extend the price that they offered to us, for our facilities to all of our voters. Excuse me, all of our residents who decided to participate in the aggregation program, and they declined to do so. But at the same time, I asked our consultant to come in here and be available this evening to answer any questions the board might have with respect to that offer versus the aggregation price. So this is Rich Surace from Energy and Lighting.
Just weren't able to get down to that price for all of our buildings, is that the
Yeah,
reason we couldn't match up?
Yeah, so thanks for having me on again. So for the aggregation, so really you take every individual customer, very much like insurance. Each of us are insured in a different way. And then for the residents, in the aggregation program, everything is aggregated up together. And typically residential loads, if we get down to sort of the finances of it, they're riskier, there's a lot more volatility, there's a lot of economics that go into setting that price when everything gets aggregated together. And, historically, Clear Creek has kept their buildings and lighting separate, as do a lot of the communities we deal with, keep things separate. So at that point, when they look at just the volume and the volatility and everything of that load for the township buildings and facilities, it comes up with a price. And with the buildings and other parts of it being much more, efficient and other things, it works out to be a better price, which that price cannot be kind of spread out amongst everybody else, again, because it becomes a game of averages. And I looked at it, the buildings, both in the Duke Service Territory and DPNL, is less than 0.1% of the entire makeup if we would put that across everything. So it's not even as if putting the buildings into the aggregation price would have swung it the other way either. It's not an apples to apples comparison.
Any questions?
The good news is, since we brought the agreement to you the last time, the actual rate that they offered has gone down some.
Yeah, so the price has come down. It is down to 0.477 cents per kWh. Some of that was some market movement coming down. Some of that was me beating on them down a little bit, I think, because we weren't happy with where things were before. And then we also shifted a month. There was some timing issues there too, because I think when this was presented back in late May, it could have been a June start, now it's July. So there's a few different pieces, moving pieces, a lot of the economics worked out a little bit differently.
Overall, it's working out pretty well for the township and the residents, so it's a good thing. Thank you. Okay, any questions? Okay. Any other comments on 5165? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve 5165?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Mearsfall?
Yay.
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank
We
you.
actually appreciate you taking the time to come.
No problem, thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 2 under administration, we have a recommendation to authorize the township administrator to enter into agreement with AZ Design as presented to conduct the facilities needs assessment at an estimated cost of $9,500 to not to exceed $11,000.
So the two finalists for the facilities needs agreement that we solicited were KZF and Farnsworth. Farnsworth is an architectural firm that has a satellite office here in the Springboro, I think, south Pioneer around. But at any rate, KZF's bid range came in under Farnsworth, and I have a bit of experience in working with KZF on other projects in my career, and I found them to be very reliable and understand not only public sector facilities needs, but particularly township facilities needs. So, when all was said and done, I think my recommendation is to go with the KZF proposal
moved.
Second?
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah. And then we have a recommendation to authorize the administrator to enter into an agreement with Environmental Engineering Service not to exceed $19,700 as submitted on April 30th.
So, as we briefed the board and staff updates the last time, the red line sewer study was being considered, and we convened the committee to evaluate those. One committee member, along with Mr. Gaylor, the four of us independently evaluated the proposals. The board directed me as the administrator to negotiate with those firms to try to get them to sharpen their pencil a little bit, to narrow the scope of service, really figure out what would be the best proposal. And the two finalists, the highest scoring ones, were quite far apart in terms of price. The original quote from one of them was over $45,000, and the other one was just a tad under $20,000. Even though the scores came in almost identical, I asked them to pare down the scope of services to really focus in on what was important. And each of them did. Obviously, the lowest bid did not move as much as the higher bid did. But the final offers that came in for the two proposals was FTC&H dropped their proposal price to $29,400. And the way that they did that is that they carved out some of the stakeholder meetings, conducting those, kind of pushed that onto the township per our suggestion, that we could take over some of those responsibilities, as well as doing some of the property research with respect to land use as well as ownership. So that got them down by almost a little over $15,000. And EES, Environmental Engineering Service, carved their price down by about $3,000 by effectively doing the same thing. To be completely contrite with you, based on what was proposed to be carved out of the EES proposal, I would recommend, the recommendation that I bring forward is to accept EES's proposal in its original submittal form as of April 30th. Because for the cost that they carved out of it versus what it would cost staff time to do it, it's worth it to have them handle the full scope of services that they offer. So that is my recommendation, is to accept the April 30th, 2019 offer from EES at $19,700 to conduct the study.
Any questions for Matt?
I took a look at them. I mean, we've obviously discussed it several different times, and this was the one that stuck out to me. As much probably for their experience in the area that we're talking about. I mean, they've had some experience with the county, so that was my top score. So.
All right. Is there a motion to approve 51?
No, just authorize
To
it.
approve the township administrator to enter into an agreement with Environmental Energy Services.
Not to exceed 17.7, or
19.7.
19.7. So moved.
Second.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah. Thank you. Then moving on to.
May I make a
Yeah,
comment on that?
yes, absolutely.
I'm Paul Pomeroy, I live at 3839 State Route 123. I've talked to you before on this. Just wanted to express my continuing interest in this project. I know this is the first step. Wanted to thank you for your interest and persistence, and hope that we'll see this to fruition. I think it'll make a big difference for our whole project here.
It'll change
It'll
things up.
definitely change this.
For sure.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for being interested. Okay, then moving on to 5173, authorizing the township administrator to incur obligations up to $5,000 on behalf of the township, and to further authorize the township administrator to authorize township officers and employees as the listed lesser figures dispensed in the second reading. Dispensed with the second reading.
So I supplemented the resolution with a memo that showed the levels that I am proposing. To be clear on the point, and the law director asked that I reiterate this on the record, that the board is gonna author, well, the request is for the board to authorize the administrator to a certain dollar figure, and then authorize the administrator the delegated authority to assign an equal or lesser amount to officers and to township elected officers and employees. So effectively what I did was took the 2013 employee handbook levels and doubled them to keep up with the pace of inflation and the increasing cost of goods. My memo not in there?
It is.
No, they're in there. I just couldn't find it. It's here. I do have some questions.
Sure.
I looked at this when you sent it out the other day, and I'm wondering if these are higher. You know, and just for example, if the up to $3,000 for the fire chief, road superintendent, particularly because of the equipment they're working on, and they are involved with. I mean, $3,000, they can't get anything back on the road unless they come back in and and see you if you're not available. But even at that, I don't know about the park operations. I expect they would go through Scott first, if there was anything more substantial. But I'll ask these guys too. I'm going to ask them, what do you guys think? What about you? For the police department, it's $3,000. I know typically it would be, but I'm thinking more of a bad situation in a time, and it may even be when we got a disaster going on. And so I mean, $3,000. If you need an emergency, get something fixed, $3,000. In my personal opinion. Now, I'm not saying I know what the right number is, by the way, but it should be $6.
It definitely seems like we've had several instances in recent history where they've been held up because they had to get approval. And it wasn't
question?
It wasn't 10, but it wasn't 2.
Right.
It was
Right.
4 or 5 grand. And it's been 6, yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point.
What do you guys think? I touch off before we start saying.
It's not frequent, but I've had to kick it up to Mr. Clark to use his expense on occasion. I know you guys hit bigger bills with
Right.
the fire trucks. But
More likely.
But there has been some occasions where I've had to kick it up for his signature above and beyond mine, so can't say it's repetitive, but it has happened.
Just to be clear, this sets us at 5. So if there were an emergency situation and you couldn't be reached, one of us can authorize that as well.
Including the fiscal officer, yes.
But this is for fiscal office purpose.
But for fiscal, okay, yeah, for fiscal, for emergency, yes, for any purpose, the board and I.
Would have that authority.
And let me ask this, so if Steve says 3,000, do we now get to go to 8, or is it all thing 5? I don't think 5 is enough for this situation. I don't think it's meant to stack them. I don't think that's the right way to write it.
No, it's not. No.
Of course not.
It's just it's a methodology to exert some
That's right.
control on the.
Control, no, I get it.
Paper offense.
Yeah, no, I get the control thing, believe me, but also if they started spending $6,000, if that's the right number, every 2 weeks, they probably wouldn't stay in their office or.
For sure.
Probably.
I would say.
Pretty sure of that. Pretty sure of that.
I feel pretty sure.
There's been about, for each department, I would say in the 2 years that I've been here, there's probably been a half dozen instances in each department where they've had to come to me because something exceeded their spending authority but was under mine. There have been a handful of times where you'll see that $4,000 purchase that's already happened end up on the agenda.
Right.
Formal blessing, but obviously I contact you prior to let you know that it's coming.
So the answer is the answer to raise Matt's? So then we've still got to check and balance?
Have we had any exceed 5,000 when it came to you?
There've been a couple.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember a couple of the fire instances and one on the roads.
Well,
I would suggest maybe giving the chiefs 5,000 and bumping Matt to 10.
And then.
I was gonna say, double, there's the 6, but 5.
10 is the statutory maximum now.
And then, okay,
You know, if that's what the board's discretion is, then that's fine.
So, police chief, fire chief,
So the 4 department heads would be 5,000, basically. That's-
road superintendent.
And then
And then 10.
do 10, and would that then put us and the fiscal officer at 10 as well?
And chances are I'm not gonna use that, I'm gonna call
No.
Matt, and I'm gonna put him on.
But it's good to have-
But
but
it's good to have it.
But we don't want, we don't want him to have more than that.
No, I mean, your point, well taken. God forbid if something like
Exactly.
Beaver Creek happens here, we're gonna need to buy stuff like yesterday, so.
Right, no, that's absolutely right, and,
Just by dumb luck that we didn't need it to,
And we can always, don't forget, we can always have an emergency meeting.
That's true.
We can authorize those expenditures too, if we need to.
So, if you just wanna, take a motion to table 5173, I will bring it back to you in its revised form as discussed tonight for formal approval at the next meeting.
I think that's appropriate.
can we,
Oh, we can vote on it.
yeah, we can vote on it with the suggested changes.
If you want to, sure.
Brian doesn't like it. He'll tell us next time.
Well, let's go ahead and do this rather than bring it
Yeah,
back.
I mean,
Is that-
So we're gonna change,
To the,
Trustees and administrator.
trustees, administrator,
And fiscal officer to 10,000 statutory maximum.
and then fiscal, and then, yeah, department heads go to 5. Do you see any need past that?
Do you need more?
He's
He's a department head.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay.
but some of my line items don't even make $5,000. So the chances that I'm going to use my maximum, as opposed to the gentleman across the way who have more equipment and more
We don't
services.
want you to feel like
But
you're left.
I'd be grateful if you wanted to include me as the same one.
We come in next time and there's a new office in there.
I'm sorry, sir.
You can have it, just don't use it.
Sure.
I'll use Mr. Wade's philosophy, and I'll go to Mr. Clark if I need anything.
Tim would be the only one that I could see on there that you might want to consider upping anything more, but other than that, no.
Who did you say, I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Vincent.
Yeah, what do you think, is that, would that be a good idea?
I do, because he functions in my capacity when I'm unavailable. We could probably put in the board.
No, I think fine. Okay, we'll do the fine.
Yeah.
Cool. You guys good with that?
What about Wally? You don't want to differentiate?
No, I think that's for me anyways.
Okay.
Gives me control.
No, no.
Or the illusion of that.
Well, yeah.
Smoke and mirrors.
Perception's reality.
Okay, that all being said, can I entertain a motion to approve 5173 with the changes we've just made?
So moved.
second?
Mr. Gabbard.
Yay.
Mr. Mearsfall.
Yay.
Mr. Wade.
Yeah. Anything else on administration, Matt?
Mercifully, no.
Okay, planning and,
Sir, we have a resolution 5174 that is addressing the property on Wayne Boulevard. Ultimately, this property is starting to go into a series of problems because it's going through a foreclosure and there's a fight going on with some of the prior property owners on what they can and can't store and the like. I'd like to help them finish cleaning up that property by this resolution, getting the grass cut, and ultimately, with the photos, you can see we have at least 2 vehicles that are beyond what anyone would claim to be an operable vehicle. The other 2 that remain at this point in time, I don't know their true status, but I since believe that we'll give them the benefit of the doubt as we're doing cleanup. If they need to be removed, we'll bring that back to you, to have those additionally removed also.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Jeff about 5173? Motion to approve 5174.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah. You know, we used to have to go out there all the time.
Yeah, and it's, I started my career on that property.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Sweetly.
we got it, to a good point. Gentleman had a son. The son has taken over the hoarding, mentality. The son and the father are not always on the same page about things at this point in time, which has led to some of their current disputes and problems, and we'll get it cleaned up. So, thank you for the ability to do so.
Yeah, thank you. So, we used to have to go out there, we would always take the food service.
Well, when I started, he had a, Mr. Tudor had a, I guess you'd call it like a U-Haul truck as one of his items that he had multiple things in. It was quite the eyesore. Yeah, expected.
Moving on to 5173, a resolution determining the maintenance of the following properties constitute nuisances and so on and so forth. Hercules Way and State Route 73.
Yeah, typically you don't see anything that's over 5 acres to be a cut of all the property. But this property actually is part of the platted subdivision of Stone Ridge. And to the rear of their property, I think truly they're probably having some issues with maintenance of their mower based upon some of the things that I've seen. If not, we want to make sure, since they've got complaints, it actually touches 2 different cul-de-sacs at Stone Ridge. So the old NCR house, falls to the rear. And from that, got complaints about rodents and snakes coming out of the area. So if we get it cut, we should help to relocate the wildlife that individuals are not expecting to have in their neighborhood.
That's a splendid idea.
So,
Anybody have questions about 5175? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yay. Anything else, Jeff?
not at this time, sir.
Police Department, Chief, recommendations to purchase 3 new police cruisers. Excuse me, 2 Chevrolet Tahoes and 1 Dodge truck.
These are not the state bid agencies, they actually beat the state bid. So it would be my recommendation that we go with them. I think Lally beat it by maybe $400 or $500, and Lebanon and Dodge beat it by maybe $100 or so on the state bid. We did it for 2, I think, the Chevy dealer in Lebanon, but I don't believe they responded back, but we had some issue with them not issuing us a bid, if I remember correctly. So I'd ask that we accept both of those, but we're going to be replacing, I think it's 3 2014 cars, if I remember correctly.
There's no particular advantage for us, or safety issues of going under the state bid, is there, Matt?
Yeah.
I think it's just dollars and cents.
The state bid's kind of deceiving. They give you a package and they bid that. And then you have options that go on that state bid package. And that's where the play starts happening with the options. So once you start getting into, well, we also need the lights and the pillars and so forth, that's where they have plenty of play to mess with the price a little bit. So it's a little deceiving the way the state bid is. They bid a certain package, it's just a very cookie cutter. Then when you actually adopt it to what you do, that's where they can make their profit, is on those extra things that you add to a car. And that's where they can also whittle the price down and beat the state bid. So Lally had the state bid, if I remember correctly, year before last, because we didn't buy any cars last year. Year before last, Lally had it, state bid, and we bought from them because nobody would beat it. Lally, if I remember correctly, Lally does not have it this year, but they still beat the state bid. And then Lebanon, for the last several years, has been bringing it to us and will beat the bid. So, and they know what that bid is to beat, and they know what the individual options are to beat, and that's where they whittle the price down. So we're appreciative that they save us a little bit extra money.
Are we replacing 2 SUVs and a cruiser?
I believe that's correct, but I can
get a double check for you. They'll be pushing about 100,000. I think two of them are in the, around 90 and one's in the 80s. By the time we get them in, get them outfitted, get them on the street, it'll be fall.
You are replacing two SUVs, because the only Fords we have are the
Yes.
Explorers.
Yeah, and one
Two
Charger.
Fords
I
and
think
one
they're all 14s.
They are.
So, we were able to move around some last year on mileage and crank some up on the older ones and save some of the road, so we didn't buy any cars last year, so.
Okay, any other questions? One from Chevy, from Fords to Chevy.
There's some talk that, some of the turbos in the Fords are having some problems, so rather than get caught with half a dozen and have some issues, and that, the Tahoes give us a little extra room for equipment. The business is just getting terrible at adding more stuff, so it gives us a little extra room in a couple of the cars, so that's the reason we want to try it, and they were a sizable difference between the Ford price, I think maybe $1,000 or something. So we'll see how the Tahoes would do. There's a police package. There was a delay in Chevy bringing out the police package too. On the Tahoes, they only had two-wheel drive forever, and they finally done four-wheel drive. So we'll give them a try and see how they work.
How's the Tahoe working that we've got?
That's our unmarked detective saying it doesn't get a lot of speed. It holds Barton around, so it must be doing okay.
Not even here to defend itself.
Even better. Even better. Okay, any other questions about this purchase? Is there a motion to direct the chief to make these purchases?
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Musbaugh.
Yay.
Mr. Gabbard.
Yay.
Mr. Wade.
Yeah. Fire district, all in the consent agenda, and nothing else to bring up, okay? Anything from the road department?
No, Scott's pulled up, working on this copy right now, still cleaning up from last year's hurricane and trying to get it in order, so that's why he's not here this evening. Couple of personnel resignations from part-time and seasonal folks this week, one of which is obviously on the consent agenda there, so I'm gonna have some personnel to bring forward and hire for the rest of the summer season and part-time next meeting.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as is presented?
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Gabbard.
Yay.
Mr. Mearsclaw.
Yay.
Mr. Wade.
Yes. Anything else? Do we have staff updates?
Yeah, just a quick item on the telephone system that's supposed to be installed here township-wide. We've had significant difficulty with state bid that we accepted, as it all was trying to administer, to the point where they reached their breaking point and decided that they were gonna tear up the state bid contract that they had offered us and write us a new contract. And in doing so, they based on my costing of the contract, they effectively cut the cost of the state bid contract in half. So, over the life of the contract, it's only going to cost about $36,000 over 3 years now, whereas the board-approved state bid contract was about $72,000. So, kudos to Doug for beating on them every single day, because I really do, I think he wore them out, and they ended up putting their money where their mouth was to say sorry about all the problems that we had, because we were supposed to get hardware about 2 months ago, so. That's all I need.
Saving money?
Wonderful.
That's great.
He jumped on at Station 21 one day, man, I was like, wow.
Did he?
Yeah, I didn't know Doug had that in him.
He is
He knows his business.
He's a
Yeah, they were trying to use
tremendous
acronyms,
business,
you
for
quit
sure.
trying to sound smart, listen, you can just do this.
Trying to sound smart.
Yeah, Matt and I were talking about the other day, and I didn't know about this specific instance, but Doug has been a great addition to our team. And the arrangement we have is awfully good because he's working with us and the city. I would recommend that anybody that you know locally that's looking for IT help, he's a good one.
Yeah, just as long as those covered our time.
Yeah,
No.
we don't want you to be busy.
No, just little stuff on the side.
Well, on the side stuff on the weekends, right?
Yeah.
Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Mearsclaw.
Yay.
Mr. Gabbard.
Yay.
Mr. Wade.
Yeah.
We signed